Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We're going to work tirelessly to ensure that when I'm sitting up here next year at this time, we're getting ready to play a big NCAA tournament game and not wrapping up our season. And that's going to be our focus and our determination as we move forward into next season.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We were away for just a few hours, but we are back, ready to rock and roll this Thursday afternoon from downtown Columbia, Main Street. Sports Talk, your Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. And we're so happy you're with us tonight as you're heading home or going for a walk. Maybe you're finishing up 9 holes and you're listening to us to help your golf game, because from time to time I drop in a few golf tips that could be useful to improving your golf game. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes, all together here tonight. 800-956 is the number. That's toll free. It's on us. We pick up the cost of the phone call here on Sports Talk. We are a totally free sports talk show and sports operation. Website is free. Twitter is free. Phone calls are free. We're free. Whatever you need, we are here at your service. 800-956-7266 is the number. So Chad Holbrook was pretty much straightforward and to the point post-season news conference today. You know, it's very strange. It was kind of an eerie feeling over at USC, and not because it was Neil White's last press conference in South Carolina, because he's leaving the state newspaper.
And he got a tweet from Ray Tanner today.
It's big time.
That is, even though Tanner did screw up the handle of Neil White.
What did he say?
He had the @ in the wrong place. It's Neil at the state, and he put it in the wrong place. So I'm not even sure Neil saw it, but Tanner made the effort. We have to coach Tanner up a little bit on.
Well, he's got those fat stubby fingers.
That's awful. That's terrible.
You got to think he's end up
all those years of playing baseball.
He'll just be working for somebody else.
Well, he might not be staying in the media.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I hope so.
I invited him in to join us anytime. Yeah. We are sort of the open door for unemployed sports writers. I've invited Ron Morris anytime. I've invited Neil White anytime, and they'll take us up on our offer.
If anybody out there is listening and wants to hire not only a great writer, just a great guy.
Thank you, K-Mac.
You're not going to find a better guy than Joel Kornbluth. Please get him out of here as fast. Oh, and Neil White if you need a second.
Neil appreciates the plug.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was kind of a surreal feeling because, let's face it, you get spoiled. You're used to going to a regional press conference at Carolina Stadium on the Thursday of this particular week. Well, there was a press conference, but it wasn't about the regional. It was USC wrapping up the season. And Holbrook was very much open about issues with the team this year as far as what went wrong from a coaching standpoint, a performance standpoint, and he vows not to rest. His staff vows not to rest until they get it fixed by next year. He realizes that the South Carolina baseball team is the pride and joy of Gamecock fans, and he does not want to see them on the outside looking in on the NCAA tournament under his watch anymore. We'll hear from him coming up. We've got time for your calls, too. We'll be back in a moment. All right, Clemson Tigers out in Fullerton, California. Final workout today at the park out there, getting ready for their NCAA tournament opener tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern time. The Tigers taking on Arizona State. College of Charleston is in Tallahassee, getting ready for their tournament opener. Coastal Carolina is out in Texas at College Station, getting ready for their tournament opener against California. So it all begins tomorrow across the country. Going to be very exciting. It's great college sports weekend for all of that. And we'll see if one of our teams, two of our teams, maybe all three, can get to a super regional and keep hope alive for Omaha. What do you think? Who, if any, of the three will make it to the supers? 800-956-7266. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, I've kind of been hesitant to look at Twitter the last 24 hours. Came back, I've stayed away from it.
It's taken years off of my life.
Waiting for the smoke to clear. Twitter is at SportsTalkSC. Website is sportstalksc.com, and on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network.
Lots of scorched earth on Twitter over the past 48 hours.
Unbelievable.
Well, losers go to feel like winners.
Telling you, Twitter, it is the cockroach of the social media.
And apparently you like those cockroaches because you keep coming back to it. You're addicted to it.
Well,
I'm the raid to the cockroaches. That's what I like. If somebody's got to do it. It's a dirty job, Pro, but somebody's got to be in there to spray the cockroaches with a little bit of pesticide.
I remember when our former director of operations here, Scott Brandon, came in our office, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and he goes, fellas, let me tell you about this new thing that's coming out. It's called Twitter. And you do this thing called a tweet. Mm-hmm. And you have to write your thoughts in 140 characters or less. And I'm like,
Corn's like, I can't do anything in 140 characters.
I'm like, this will never catch on.
Corn can't tell you what time it is in 140 characters.
Incredible.
I would tell you the answer. I gave a guy another job when he came in. He was this computer guy. He was so excited. He said, Tom, what do you think of the computers? I said, instrument of the devil. What do you mean?
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
I said, anytime a new toy comes around, guess who's sitting there waiting to play with it? Hey, the devil. And the devil has sprung again. Boy, he saw Twitter. He did. I love this.
All right, 800-956-7266. So truthfully, who do you think is going to make it to a super regional? Will any of our teams make it through the regional round? We'll talk about that. Look ahead to a little football. I see where one of the national internet guys, is Clay Travis, ranked the top 25 college football coaches, did not have Dabo Swinney in the top 25. I don't understand the lack of respect given Dabo Swinney by this guy. I think when you talk top 25 current college football coaches, you have to include Dabo Swinney. He's gotten multiple Coach of the Year honors the last few years. The only thing he hasn't done with regularity is win an ACC championship. He's won one, but he hasn't done it with regularity to show some sort of dominance. But he's in a division that has another dominant team in Florida State. So he has kept his program at the top. He's won bowl games against big-time programs. Mm-hmm. And I don't see why you would not include him. He plays an exciting brand of football on the offensive side. I don't know why you wouldn't include him among the top 25 coaches. He's going to have a team this year that's going to start the year out well inside the top 15 and may move well inside the top 10 before the season is over.
And also, I think many coaches, he knows the pulse of not only the recruiting game, but he also knows the pulse of his fans. I know there's a lot of vociferous fans out there, but to me, just being in this state, and I know they lost to South Carolina 5 years in a row, but I thought really that the Clemson fans really supported Dabo. I didn't see a lot of hammering of Dabo during that time. I mean, so he has the pulse of the fans.
I want to ask Clemson fans out there, those of you that live and die with Dabo and support him, why does he have a hard time? And Clay Travis is a national writer. I mean, he is the guy. He made his name by asking Tim Tebow the question. Yeah, this is the guy that asked Tim Tebow if he was a virgin at SEC Media Days. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And he has ridden that to a prominent name. He's on Fox Sports 1 and all that kind of stuff.
He was kind of a name before that. That maybe I don't know if it could have increased his brand. I'm not sure, but
I think it increased his exposure. But anyway, the point is, why is Dabo not getting the national respect?
Yeah. And he was asked, I think Chris Lowe's complimented his list and said Sweeney should be in the top 25. And his response was he was right on the outside, but he was worried about the Chad Morris factor.
He had Bielema in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to put Brett Bielema in that list, and his top three, the obvious, I think it was Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, and D'Antoni. And the interesting thing about D'Antoni was he questioned if maybe he would come back to South Carolina.
Well, I don't so long. No, he's a Midwest guy for so many years, and he's from Ohio. The thing that gets me, and I know I'm reading people's minds, but I know a lot of writers who really don't like the cheerleading aspect of Dabo, and I think that's they hold it against him for no apparent reason. If I don't care if a guy's shaking pom-poms, if his team is playing effectively, how can you hold that against him that you don't like the rah-rah attitude?
Yeah, I think that or make that claim against Dabo, and it might have stuck a little bit because, look, he had gone from never even being a coordinator to being the head coach. And a lot of what got him to be the head coach was the fact that Terry Don Phillips just saw something in him, his leadership and his enthusiasm that he really liked. It couldn't have been based strictly on his football knowledge and his X's and O's because he didn't really have any X's and O's. He'd never designed an offense. He'd never designed a defense. So a lot of what got him to where he was that enthusiasm, that gung-ho, and that glass half full approach to things. And maybe the first few years, but you know what? And you could probably count me in that group that thought the same way. But now, he's weathered some storms. He's gone through some changes on his staff. He loses his offensive coordinator. He's got new guys there. Their first time out against live bullets, they did extremely well. Seems to me like he's an excellent CEO of his football team, and he delegates authority. He lets at least to this point, he let Chad Morris run the offense. He's let Brent Venables run the defense. This will be interesting to see with two young guys running the offense, and Dabo now being 45 and having been in this position for a few years. Does he himself delve more into the offensive operation, especially if things don't go smoothly? Does he insert himself more into that, or does he back away as he did with Chad Morris and let Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott run?
We will know. It might be the Bobby Bowden syndrome. In other words, when Florida State was playing well, you didn't have to look at the game. Why? Because Bobby didn't have the headset on. Soon as Dabo puts the headset on and then pulls the mic down, then you think he's inserted himself. But I think this is the year that he solidifies himself as a great coach, because people say, well, he lost Chad Morris. Okay, fine. Oh, okay, he's still winning. Okay, he's the man.
If they maintain and they have an offense, if number 4 stays healthy, and you have maybe the best wide receiving core, at least 2 of the top wide receivers in the ACC, if not the country, in Artavis Scott and Mike Williams, their offense should be pretty darn good next year. And Dabo Swinney, he takes a little umbrage that I asked him that question before the bowl game, before they played Oklahoma. And, hey, are you going to have a more active role now that Chad's not there? And he said, I've had an active role. This whole notion that I don't do anything on the sidelines but twiddle my thumbs, it's not really the truth. I'm involved in the play calling on offense and defense. So I know some people kind of roll their eyes, but in his mind, he brought in Chad Morris. He brought in everybody on that staff, and it's a Clemson offense. It's a Dabo Swinney offense, and he deserves a little credit for it.
800-956-7266. We'll hear from Clemson coach Jack Leggett tonight. He is out in California getting his team geared up for their regional tomorrow night against Arizona State. The Lone State media there, the Tiger Insider. So we suggest if you're a Clemson fan, check out their website and their coverage. And we'll hear from Jack Leggett coming up and more. Sports Talk on a Thursday night from downtown Columbia. Good to have you along. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Catch you up on some of the other things happening today besides the regionals coming up here in just a day or so. We have the All-American team announced today, the Louisville Slugger All-America team. This is part of collegiate baseball and putting this out. And from the College of Charleston on the first team, Taylor Clark. He'll be starting tomorrow. What a year he's had. 13-1, 1.34 ERA, 2 complete games, a save, and 136 strikeouts in 107 innings, 107.3 innings. Interesting. How can you have 107.3? Wouldn't that be 108? In baseball terms, I thought that's how they broke innings down by 1.2.3, but maybe they're just adding all the
one
innings
out of
up.
3. I'd say that was in a third.
I guess. Yeah. Anyway,
That's
only 14 walks,
how
too.
that works.
Talk about control.
Yeah, we go.
130 strikeouts and 14 walks. The other first-team All-American pitchers, Carson Fulmer of Vandy, Matt Hall of Missouri State, Mike Sharon of Maryland, Alex Lang of LSU. Oh, Matthew Crownover from Clemson, 10-2. 1.59 ERA, 102 innings, 99 strikeouts, and 36 walks. David Berg of UCLA and Tyler J. of Illinois, the relievers. Your first-team position players. Chris Robinson's the catcher from Morehead State. Will Craig, the first baseman from Wake Forest. Melvin Rodriguez, the second baseman from Jackson State. David Thompson, who can really sky, third baseman from Miami of Florida. Alex Bregman, shortstop from LSU. Andrew Benindetti, who's the National Player of the Year, outfielder from Arkansas. He batted .391, 18 home runs, 52 RBIs. He drew 40 walks, and he struck out only 29 times, and he stole 22 bases. Donnie DeWeese of North Florida's outfielder. Kevin Kesmarski of Evansville, outfielder. Utility player Corbin Olmstead from North Florida. How good is North Florida to have 2 first-team All-Americans on the offensive side? Some other locals to make the team. On the second team, Clemson catcher Chris Oakey with a .320 batting average, 12 home runs, 55 RBIs. Wofford first baseman Connor Clancy, .326 batting average, 10 home runs, 66 RBIs. USC first baseman Kyle Martin, .350 batting average, 14 home runs, 56 RBIs. And on the third team, the Citadel left-hander James Reeves, 8-4, 3.69 ERA this season. I believe he had a no-hitter this year, didn't he? I think he did have a no-hitter. And Carl Wise, College of Charleston, third baseman, .319 batting average, 11 home runs, 68 RBIs. And that is it for players from our state on this All-American team. Congratulations to them. Chad Holbrook, his thoughts about the season and the future coming up.
As I sit up here today,
Okay, we're back on Sports Talk, and let's right into the news conference with Chad Holbrook, USC baseball coach, wrapping up the season, looking ahead to next year. Here is some of what the Gamecock coach had to say.
As I sit up here today, it's been a difficult, week or so since we lost to Missouri in the SEC tournament. It's been a difficult time for me, as difficult as any time in my coaching career from a professional standpoint. Obviously, we fell short of the goals that we had in mind for this year and this year's team. And obviously with the understanding of the expectations and the tradition of South Carolina baseball and, all the winning that we've done around here, it's been a very, very difficult time for me personally and for our players and our coaches as well. But we with the end of one season, you have to look forward and start thinking about your team for the 2016 season, and myself and my staff and our coaches and all individual meetings that I've had with the players. We're going to work tirelessly to ensure that when I'm sitting up here next year at this time, we're getting ready to play a big NCAA tournament game and not wrapping up our season. And that's going to be our focus and our determination as we move forward into next season. But that being said, this season analyzed it front and back, plays here and there, and a play here, a play there, a win here, a win there, and we're playing tomorrow. And there's a fine line in college baseball, and parity is obviously rampant in our sport. And we've prided ourselves on winning those games in the balance around here over the course of many years. And this year, a lot of those games in the balance went the other way, and we got to correct that and make sure that those one run, one play here, one at bat here, one at bat there, that has enabled us to have great seasons in the past. We got to make sure we put ourselves in a more of a successful position as we move forward. But there were some good things that happened with our team this year. Kyle Martin returning for his senior year and named to an All-American team today, and I couldn't be more proud of Kyle. He turned down a fair amount of money to return to his senior year to get his degree and experience moments like that. And him being an All-American, I'm sure he'd sit up here and tell you his decision was well worth it, even though our team didn't accomplish all that we wanted to accomplish. As we look forward to, next year, there's going to be a lot of new names and a lot of new faces. And as we get closer to the fall, we can certainly introduce some of those guys to you. But again, as I sit up here and, it's a difficult time for me and our players and our coaches, and we're going to work tirelessly over between now and when we start fall practice to ensure we're not in this position again.
As you surveyed this over the past week, do you look back and try to figure out, is there anything you and the other coaches could have done differently in some ways to maybe get a few more different results? Anything you look back on and maybe second guess yourself on?
Yeah, I'm my biggest critic, and there's a lot of things when you have a season in which some things don't go your way. I think you have to self-evaluate. Evaluate yourself first, and say if you had to do over again, what would you do? And I felt like maybe I didn't allow my players to get as comfortable as I wanted them to be, because we had some versatile guys. And one of the things that stands out to me is maybe I moved some guys around a little bit too much earlier in the year, and they didn't get quite comfortable or getting a consistent rhythm in ball and having consistent at bats. And when you go 32-25, and I'm the one leading this program, I have to take responsibility for that. And would we have liked some of our players to perform better? Yes. And I wish I could have helped them perform better. But again, as I sat here and analyzed every play and every game and every tough loss, there's 4 or 5 plays that kind of stick out in my mind. And if we make 2 of those 4 or 3 of those 5, we're playing tomorrow. And such a fine line. And it's just we got to prepare extremely hard as we go forward not to put ourselves in this position again.
Except for your top 3 guys, do you have any idea why this didn't hit?
I've thought long and hard about it. And I know it's not because of the countless hours that they worked. I mean, Busher was in those cages with them working on their swings hours upon hours before each and every practice that we had. Sometimes hitting becomes psychological, and it's a very, very, first and foremost, it's a very difficult task to hit a baseball. And then it becomes psychological when you get off to a slow start. And sometimes you're able to pull yourself out of it. Sometimes you're not. Max was good enough. He got off to a terrible start and very, very slow, but obviously the talent rose to the top, so to speak, and he salvaged a very, very solid year. I mean, I remember we were sitting up here in March, and he was probably hitting barely 200, and I said he'll be at 330 before it's over with, and I know how good of a hitter he is. But we had a number of guys that probably didn't quite hit from an average standpoint what they're capable of hitting, and that's something that as a coach have to try to determine what that reason is. Did we not drill them hard enough, or did I do something from a coaching standpoint that didn't put them in as good a position as I'd like them to be in? Those are questions that I'm going to have to answer myself. Obviously Connor Bright's hit over 300 several years here, and he had a tough season. And one of the reasons was injuries. But he had a tough season. Marcus Mooney hit 275 and was in the middle of a lot of things last year for us. But he had a very, very difficult year offensively this year. So those guys, stand out to me as being very capable, but they just didn't perform the way that we would have liked them to. Now, that doesn't – it wasn't because of work. It wasn't because of character. It wasn't because they didn't try their tails off. Sometimes – this game can get you from time to time from a psychological standpoint. And I think it snowballed on several guys. They put a little bit too much pressure on themselves. And sometimes in this game you can try too hard and it work against you. And that might have been the case. But as the coach, I have to analyze if I didn't do enough. And I'll look long and hard at myself in regards to that. I've been around some awfully good hitters over the course of my career here, and we didn't do anything this year much different than what we've done when we've put up great offensive numbers. So from a preparation standpoint, we've done the same thing. But mentally, did I not put them in a better, and did I not do a good job of putting them in a psychological frame of mind to have more success? That's something that I'm going to have to ask myself as we get closer to the fall.
Typically, how much does a previous season affect your off season, and do you expect this off season to be any different? Yeah,
this off season is going to be different. It will be different, and because of this season, I don't want to sit up here again being 32 and 25, and when these players get back together, I'm going to do my damnedest to from a preparation standpoint and a practice standpoint, and what we do in the weight room and what we do from a conditioning standpoint. If I got a group of players that come back in here in August and aren't motivated to go to work, and I got the wrong kids in here, and I don't think I do. I got some really good, hardworking kids, and I got help is on the way and some new faces. So, but yeah, we're there's going to be a sense of urgency, around here for sure, and that's because of what we just experienced. I can't, I believe in what we do, and I believe in our program, and I believe in how hard we work in the weight room, and I believe in all that stuff. But you can put the gas down a little bit more, and that's what we're going to do. We might change some times. We might work. We might welcome the sun up a couple times, more than a couple, all fall. We might be best friends with the sunrise, and there will be changes like that. And because our players are going to need to understand that what we just went through is not acceptable.
Chad Holbrook, we'll be right back. All right, time for the Breeze Report, brought to you by Mattress by Appointments. It's real simple. You call and you save 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. Call 803-530-8549. By Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. And by Play It Again Sports, off Bauer Parkway in Columbia, where you pay less for more. Mike Morgan joining us from Gainesville, Florida, on site for the NCAA Baseball Regional there. He will be calling for ESPN. And we welcome Mike to the program. And, boy, the Braves couldn't get out of Los Angeles quick enough. You know, I was watching the end last night, and, of course, they did win last night. But Uribe he looks 45 years old. How old is he?
He's not 45. I'd have to check the exact age. I'd say he's mid-30s.
He just looked old walking off the
This is
field
an
last
old
night.
panda.
Yeah. Anyway, I was almost thinking the Braves got swept, but I forgot they did win last
They won
night.
last night.
Yeah, they did win last night. So nice way to end, the stay in L.A. as they head up to San Francisco. Got a little dicey for them, though, there in the ninth inning.
Yeah, I can't tell if you want to go positive or negative on this return with those two lead-ins. But yes, bottom line is they won the game, and overall it was not such a great series. Before that, you salvaged the series. We've talked about the bullpen overall. It's been shaky at best at times. Grilly's put up some good saves numbers, but overall he's not a true lights-out guy. He's going to be 39 not too long from now. That's going to be an issue pretty much the rest of the year, because I don't think they're going to make a whole lot of deals to enhance their bullpen. Everybody in Major League Baseball could use more arms. So teams that are going through a rebuilding phase, they're not going to spend a whole lot on rectifying a bullpen, because it's not going to make the difference. This is not a team that's, one more arm in the bullpen is all of a sudden going to make them in a contender for the World Series championship. So that's going to be an issue. At times, the offense is going to be shaky. That's evidence. They'll go a lot of games without hitting home runs. Had by Cameron Maben, who's in the 2-hole tonight, who's been a pleasant surprise. Maben was a guy who was one of those can't-miss prospects years ago in San Diego, and then never really panned out. And the Braves took a flyer on him. He's played some good baseball. Jace Peterson, same thing in the leadoff spot. And you know what Freeman can do, and Markakis has, I think, given them what they thought he would, not only as a leader, but he gets on base, bottom line. They just don't have a whole lot of run producers. They've got a lot of guys that give you good at-bats and get on base from time to time, but not necessarily a ton of guys to knock them in. The good news is on the mound, you've got what I consider to be the ace now, because I don't know what's happened to Julio Teheran, but he's not the same pitcher. Shelby Miller, however, has pitched like an ace. So if he gives you another great effort, and he hasn't allowed more than two runs in a start this year, then hopefully you can squeak by a San Francisco offense that at times has been punchless as well.
Well, it's interesting. You talked about Shelby Miller and how well he's pitching, and I don't know if you've talked to any pitchers about this, but Shelby Miller is pitching in Atlanta. They've gone on the road. They just come from Los Angeles. How is it psychologically for a pitcher when you suddenly go into San Francisco when the temperature could drop on you, and suddenly you got to put a jacket on or whatever? Does that affect some pitchers, the psychological quick temperature change coming from L.A. and Atlanta to San Francisco?
Well, I think overall a guy like Shelby Miller will take some of that, as opposed to the blistering heat on a hot summer Atlanta day where you're just sweating through your jersey by the second inning. And by the time you get the seventh inning, you got an extra 10 pounds of just sweat on that uniform. Yeah, it's not going to get too cold where it's going to freeze any of these guys out. And the thing is about San Francisco, it's always considered a pitcher's park. So I think opposing pitchers like going to this ballpark and pitching, because the home run ball, unless you're incredibly juiced, as we've seen in the past, it's come very often in this ballpark. So if you know how to pitch well, you can keep the ball in the yard, and most pitchers will tell you they love to see that.
Mike, thank you very much. We'll say goodbye to you for the week because you've got regional duties coming up down in Gainesville. Looks to me like that will be a Gator walkthrough down there, but you never know with baseball. Shelby Miller on the mound tonight for the Braves, 5-1, a very sweet 1.5 ERA against Chris Heston, also a right-hander, 4-3, 4.33 ERA. The Giants got off to kind of a slow start, guys, but they've picked it up here in recent weeks and pulled themselves into second place in the West and trying to keep in touch with the Dodgers there. And we'll see how the Braves do in this series in San Fran. We'll be back with recruiting in a moment. Yeah, talking about the Giants, 11-2 in their last 13 games. They've hit 16 homers in their last 13 games. They're a hot club. Face the Braves beginning tonight in San Fran. To recruiting we go. Offensive lineman John Simpson of Fort Dorchester moving into the summer camp phase of recruiting. He now weighs 296, 6'4". He'll camp at Alabama this Sunday, be there through June 3rd. Then he's thinking about going to Clemson's camp that runs June 8th through 10. He's down for USC Showcase Camp on June 12th. He also plans to camp at Florida, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia. Has made unofficial visits to several schools, none more than to Clemson. He was there last month, and he found that visit enlightening because he learned more about things other than football about the school, and that's important to him as he goes on these visits to schools, learning more about them academically and socially than just the football side. He gives Clemson a slight edge over the field at this point because of his familiarity with the school, because he says he's been there like 4 or 5 times. It's the only school that he has seen in depth. So he said right now they are the leader. But he hasn't taken a visit to LSU and Tennessee, and he doesn't really want to put out a definite favorites list because he said it might change. No new offers to his list. Clemson, USC, Georgia, Wake, Maryland, Louisville, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Florida, Georgia Southern, the offers. Receiver Larry Collins Jr. from Lower Richland opened up a lot of eyes in camps last summer, looking to do more of the same this summer, starting with USC's Showcase Camp on June 12th. The Gamecocks have kept up their recruiting interest in Collins, and he's done likewise with them. And he said USC's been telling him a lot. He said they want him to come and look at the facilities. He says they've been recruiting him pretty hard. Despite an early offer from Clemson, Collins said he's not hearing much from the Tigers at this point. Of the schools that have offered him, he feels USC, Wake Forest, North Carolina, Louisville, and Georgia Southern are showing the strongest interest. Some of his other offers are Auburn, Florida State, Tennessee, Virginia, and East Carolina, feeling like all are recruiting him pretty hard. He adds he does not have any favorites at this point. USC, this is a pretty big note for South Carolina. USC offensive line target Branton Autry of Coffeyville Junior College in Kansas committed yesterday to Florida. This was the guy USC was working very hard. Offensive lineman Cortez Heron of Saluda committed to East Carolina. Richland Northeast running back. Let's do that again. Richland Northeast linebacker T.J. Brunson going to Georgia Southern this weekend. Clemson offered defensive back Spencer Perry, Bradenton, Florida. He's a Gator commitment. Tigers also offered 2017 defensive end Zachary Carter, Tampa. 2017 receiver Emmanuel Green from Bradenton, IMG Academy, as is Spencer Perry. Going to visit Ohio State June 24th. He also hopes to get to Clemson and Miami this summer. And Clemson offered 2018 defensive back Mike Jones Jr. of Lebanon, Tennessee, which is outside Nashville. I'm wondering and thinking he might be related to the Mike Jones that played here in Columbia and at NC State and for the Titans, I think. Possible. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes. Coming up here in just a couple of minutes, we're going to be joined by former Clemson assistant basketball coach and longtime administrator Dwight Rainey, who worked alongside the late Bill Foster for many, many seasons. And we're going to chat with him about Bill Foster, his legacy as a basketball coach, what he meant to Clemson, what he meant to the state of South Carolina in basketball, and to college basketball in general, because he did a lot of great things. He will be known as a program starter, for one thing, because he started the program at Charlotte. He started the program at Miami when it restarted. So he is known for taking things from the ground up and building it, and we're going to reminisce a little bit with Coach Rainey coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Bottom of the hour, Todd Knight, Newberry football coach, will join us. We continue to catch up with the football coaches around the state, reviewing their spring and looking ahead to the coming season. We'll take care of Newberry tonight. That'll leave us Wofford and Coastal and North Greenville to get to, and maybe Benedict if we can catch up with their new coach as well. So we've got those to do here over the next little while, which reminds me that coming up, and it's not too far away, coming up in July, it's the annual South Carolina Coaches for Charity. This year it's going to be held at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. And this brings together many college football coaches around the state for one night to talk with the fans and talk with each other, share some stories, sometimes exchange some good-natured ribbing. Willie Jeffries is there to MC everything, and the sponsorships are available. Purchasing of tables, that's available as well. For more information, you go to southcarolinacoaches.com, southcarolinacoaches.com. This is what is put on by the Fisher DeBerry Foundation, and they do a great job. They've done this now in South Carolina for several years. They do it in other states as well. And what they do is raise money for the charity of the Coach's Choice. Mm-hmm. So a lot of different charities benefit from this. And the coaches seem to really enjoy it. It's their last little bit of a good time before they get to work, because this is going to be held on, let's see, Spurrier's golf outing is on a Wednesday in July. I think it's July 29th or 30th this year, and this event is going to be held the next day. Yes, Spurs thing is the 29th, and then the Coach for Charity event is the 30th of July. Then after that weekend, players are reporting, and it's time to get down to practice. Dwight Rainey, he's coming up next here on Sports Talk. And we're back. Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes with you. You know, we were all saddened to hear the news yesterday of the passing of Bill Foster at the age of 79, even though we all knew that Coach Foster had been in failing health for a number of years after battling Parkinson's disease. Still sorry to hear the news. And we welcome in longtime Clemson assistant coach and administrator Dwight Rainey, who worked side by side with Coach Foster for many, many years. Coach, how are you?
I'm just fine, Phil. Looking forward to talking with you, but I hate us because of Coach Foster's death.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us about your favorite memories of him on the bench at the various stops. What are a couple things that stand out in your mind about him?
Well, there's so many, Phil. Of course, I played for him in college, and then we were at UNC Charlotte together. He gave me a great opportunity there, and then, of course, I came with him to Clemson. Probably the thing that I remember most, though, we were playing North Carolina, and Coach Foster has this shoulder issue that he's had since, to tell you the truth, he didn't get to play his senior year in college because it would come out of place. And we were playing North Carolina, and we had about a 20-point lead, and this is when they had Phil Ford and a great team. And he jumps up, and his arm comes out of socket, and the doctor helped him off the court, and he looked at me, and he said, it's all yours, don't blow it. So we ended up winning by about 12 or 14, thank goodness. But that is the one thing that sticks out in my mind from, it's different for being a coach and calling the shots and being the assistant. And I wasn't used to that, being in that situation. So, but it worked out well. It was a great win for us.
What stood out in your mind about him as an X's and O's guy? What part of the game did he really master and excel at as a coach?
I think, Phil, the thing that he did the best was to not overburden the kids with a lot of stuff and allow them to play within the system. Of course, it was a different time back then. There was no 3-point shot. There was no clock. And but we had a very basic philosophy, and Coach was great at just convincing the kids that we could win and getting the ball in the right person's hands to be able to be successful. And I think and then I remember we weren't great free throw shooters one year. And, of course, that's back when you could stall if you had a lead, back in Dean Smith's four-corner days. And he said, well, if we go into a stall, they're going to foul us and put us on the line, and we're not great free throw shooters. So he just said, we're going to run our offense. We're just going to run our shuffle cuts and all that stuff, playing like or looking like we're trying to score, but we're really not going to try to score. And we took time off the clock by just turning the offense over and over, and the other team being a little bit conservative, didn't foul us. So he was just a tremendous human being. He did so many things that were just as important as what he did on the court. Back before, now they have staffs to do this kind of stuff. He would do things for the kids that just would help them in life and in the future. And if we went on a trip, he made sure that, if we were in Hawaii, we were going out to Pearl Harbor and get a little history education and so forth. And he was just, next to my father, Bill Foster was the biggest influence in my life. He was just such a great man, and as you mentioned, you know, he really had, what he had was Parkinson plus, which is a little different than Parkinson. It wasn't the tremor things that we associate with that. And the last 3 years have been just a very difficult time for he and his family. And so it's just a sad time for everyone that knew Coach. I can't tell you, I've been on the phone ever since Coach Foster's daughter called me about an hour after he passed away, and trying to get word to all my friends and everybody. And I must have talking to 30 people in the last day and a half. So you know, so it's a lot of memories going through your mind at this time.
What was he like sitting next to on the bench and in the locker room preparing the team? Was he a real intense guy? I mean, we only saw him from the media standpoint, and I was a young guy when he was finishing up there at Clemson, so I didn't really get a chance to be exposed to him all that much. But was he a really intense guy, or how did he approach preparing and play a game?
Well, he was intense, but he was intense in his own way, Phil. I mean, just to share this with you, let's say after a game when we didn't play well or we blew a big lead or something like that, all the assistant coaches would be mad, and as we were walking to the locker room, we'd say, okay, we need to get on so-and-so. We need to improve this. We need to improve that. Instead, he would go in the locker room. He'd listen to us but wouldn't say anything, but he'd go in the locker room and he'd be very positive. He'd talk about the things we did right first. And then he would say, well, we'll get in the film room tomorrow and correct everything. And he just had a way about him. I just think I'm not sure everybody knew how great a coach he really was. As you know, when we first came to Clemson it was April 1975. Soon after that, we went on probation from the previous staff. I hate to bring that up.
Sure.
But the only reason I'm bringing it up is, you know, we had some good players, Tree Rollins and Stan Rome and guys like that, Cole Abraham. He really kept that team together. We met one-on-one with the players, and we met with them as a group, and he went over his philosophy and how we were going to play and those kind of things. Tree Rollins could have gone pro at that time, and I think Coach Foster convinced he and the rest of the team, you know, it was going to be fun and we're going to enjoy playing and we were going to win. And he kept that team together. And most people, except for a very few people, really knew what a great job holding things together. And of course, we had 2 great years. The very first year we were here, we won the most games at that time in Clemson history. So, you know, so that's something that very few people know about. But
all right, Coach, hang on one second. We got to hit a quick break. I want to come back to you for a couple of more minutes in just a second, visiting with Dwight Rainey, talking about the late Bill Foster. Back in just a moment. And we're back on Sports Talk, visiting with Dwight Rainey for a couple of more minutes about Bill Foster. What are the funeral plans for Coach Foster? Do you know those?
Phil, I'm waiting to hear back from them right now that as of yesterday, tentatively, it was going to be, well, it's going to be in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And tentatively 2:00 on Monday. I don't know the church or whatever,
Sure.
but I'm waiting to hear back from Bill's family to confirm that, because obviously a lot of people want to know that so they can get there to honor Bill. And so I don't know anything definite at this time.
Okay.
Well, when you look at Coach Foster and how he built so many programs, he had to have been a guy with great basketball moxie, but also liked to teach and had a lot of patience. But what was it like going to the Elite Eight and being that close to the Final Four? What was that experience like?
Well, let me tell you a quick story. Of course, we went out to Utah and, won 2 games there. We beat Utah State, I think, or Utah, I can't remember.
Utah State.
And the Utah State,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Then we beat BYU with Danny Ainge,
Mm-hmm.
who most sports people know who that is. And this team was Bobby Conrad, Billy Williams, Larry Nance, Horace White, Moose Campbell, those guys. Well, so we're going to play the next week in Tucson, Arizona. Well, next week happened to be spring break. So what did Coach do? This is typical Bill Foster. He rented he got us a bus, and he says, "Guys, we're not going back to Clemson. So you used to go back and fly right back out west." So the first day, we traveled to Las Vegas, and he let the guys enjoy one day in Las Vegas. Then we traveled down to northern Arizona and Flagstaff and practice, and to Phoenix and practice, then to Tucson and practice. And we came, most people maybe don't, unless they're real Clemson fans, don't realize we came very close to going to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA beat us in the final of that regional out there. Kiki Vanderway is one of the players I remember. And I think we lost by about 11, but the game was much closer than that. And that would have been something for Clemson to be in the Final Four. And we came very, very close, and that's still the closest that any Clemson team has come to doing that.
Coach, we appreciate the time. Again, our thoughts and prayers to everybody in the Foster family, and that includes his extended family, coaches, players like yourself. And we thank you for being with us tonight to talk about one of the great coaches to come through our state, Bill Foster, who passed away yesterday at the age of 79. Thanks to Dwight Rainey. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks again to Dwight Rainey for joining us here tonight on Sports Talk to reminisce a little bit about Bill Foster and his great career and what he did for basketball at Clemson and obviously around the state of South Carolina and college basketball in general. We switch gears from college basketball to college football. How about that? We're inside 100 days until the start of the season. It will be here before we know it. We're still catching up on coaches around the state on their spring practice and looking ahead to their upcoming season. We welcome Newberry coach Todd Knight to Sports Talk. And before we talk about your team coming up and spring, I tell you what, it amazes me. Seriously, it amazes me the impact that little Newberry College has had on the NFL. You had another player picked in the draft past time. Of course, Ron Parker just signed a huge contract, and Brandon Bostic, well, we know what happened there, but it's not for a lack of trying on his part. But for being such a small school, you got to be busting at the seams to know that your little program has put these players into the NFL.
Phil, it's a great feeling to have all those guys in. I mean, we got 4 kids active right now in the NFL. You mentioned Ron Parker, who's starting for the Kansas City Chiefs, and just recently signed a multi-million-dollar deal. And, you know, I was walking on campus the other day with one of the coaches, and a really nice red sports car pulled up. And I looked at and said, "Coach, what kind of car is that?" And he said, "I don't know." And the window rolled down, and it was Ron.
Uh-huh.
So I walked over. I said, "Ron, man, what are you driving?" He said, "Coach, it's an Aston Martin." I said, "Ron, I only know 2 people that drive the Aston Martin, you and James Bond." So you're talking about something in Newberry. You see Aston Martin riding around. And, yeah, you know, Brandon Bostic, he was doing pretty well there with the Green Bay Packers and had a rough time in the playoffs. He's been traded to Minnesota and a chance to rekindle his career there. And Corey Washington's making a good impact with the New York Giants. And then Ed Robinson this past year, first guy to be drafted since 74. And I think there's only been 4 or 5 that's ever been drafted out of Newberry College in 102 years of football. So, you know, we're real proud of all these guys and very proud of Ed Robinson. And he will also be at the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's kind of cool to have 2 kids from little old Newberry as teammates with the Minnesota Vikings. And the great thing about it, too, Phil, all these guys, South Carolina high school football products. Absolutely. That's the great thing. And it also drives home the point that if you're good enough, it doesn't matter where you're playing. And Newberry, I think you're still the smallest school enrollment-wise playing college football, or one of them. It doesn't matter where you're playing. If you're good enough and you play well enough, they'll find you. There's no question about it. You're right. And I think now having it in the pipeline, you know, you'll see the scouts at practice at our place. And, you know, I can't imagine some of the things that go on at the Clemsons and the Carolinas, because at our little place, it's crazy. You know, you'll come out and you'll see 4 or 5 scouts at practice, and it's really a neat thing. And you talk about having a good practice. Boy, you look over there and there's the Dallas Cowboys and the Redskins standing around. Kids really get after it when that's happening. Do you have somebody on the team this year, a senior, who will be of that ilk that's going to draw NFL eyes? Well, I think we might have a kid. You know, we've already gone through junior and senior pro day, so they have a list of names of our guys that'll come out for the upcoming year. You know, really, I always say it with the scouts when they come in and they ask, you know, well, is he good enough to play? And I said, well, listen, he's a great player for us. It's up to you to decide whether he's good enough to play for you. Yeah, absolutely. All right, what about spring ball and getting this team in shape for the upcoming season? What did you take away from spring practice? Well, I was pleased with the offensive side of the ball. You know, coming out of last year, we had the top-ranked defense in the league. We were number 1 in the nation in pass defense. And we've got a lot of those guys back, especially up front. I was a little concerned about the offense and really think we got things on track in spring ball. At the quarterback spot, Raleigh Yeldale had a great spring. I think he did an excellent job controlling the offense and moving the sticks. And he's got some talented kids around him. You know, Romello Doctor was a big name in the state coming out of high school, a Shrine Bowl guy and that kind of thing. He did a really good job carrying the football for us and keeping things rolling. So I'm excited about what I've seen from our offense this spring. Defensively, I think we're going to be fine. I think up front, defensive line-wise, it's going to be key for us on that side of the ball, and just straight athleticism on the offensive side of the ball. And Yeldell for us right now at the quarterback spot's key.
You talk about exciting guys, and Kevin Miller, who was a former standout at Lexington, on the scene for you some last year, primarily as a kickoff return man. Will he get more work on the offensive side?
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, he's rolling in at 2 or 3 different spots. He'll play tailback. He'll play slot. He'll return kicks and punts for us. Kevin is an extremely talented young man, and I just think we're extremely fortunate to have him. And he will be a guy that'll be on that NFL radar down the road. I truly believe. I think so. He's not a very big kid. He's not very tall, but he's really muscled up, and he does a great job with the football in his hands. Got great speed, tough kid. You never can tell. A year or 2 down the road, you never can tell.
Looking at your stats here, one thing that kind of jumps out at me from a offensive negative standpoint is your red zone touchdowns. You were under 60% converting touchdowns in the red zone. In your postseason review, what was happening to you there, and what can you do to improve that number?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with plain old toughness, just lining up and hammering the football, and injuries occurring throughout the season. That kind of bit us a little bit right there. I think up front wise, we got a lot better in the spring. We've gotten some kids that's been with us in the program for a while now at the offensive line spot. And I think they really turned the corner when it came to just plain old toughness. Just line up. If you got to get on 4th down in the red zone, and let's hit them in the mouth and let's get it done. And they proved they can do that this spring against what I consider to be a really tough and a very veteran line, defensive line. I think he did a great job against.
Typical of you and your staff, you've signed half a state to come into your program in your incoming class. It's another good-looking class, mostly South Carolina kids, if not all South Carolina kids. I wanted to ask you, though, about Joe Blue from Dillon, who went to a prep school, junior college deal in Georgia, was planning to get to your place. Is he good to go? Will he be with you this season?
Joe's actually planning on being on campus tomorrow to finalize some paperwork in the admissions office. He's still working SAT right now. We're waiting on one to come back, and he's got one out there that we've got to get signed up and take. Kid's 1 point away on the test score right now, but Joe has signed with us, and we're keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully he can pull that off and be out there with us in the fall. If not, then we'll put him on the shelf and we'll redshirt him for the future.
Yeah, well, that's good.
In my mind, Joe's going to be a big part of what we do here, whether it's an immediate impact or down the road.
Will you use him at will you play him at fullback or linebacker?
Well, when you got a kid of that caliber, Phil, at our place, I think, you don't want to hold him back. And, I think the kid could start on either side of the ball for us. I think he could jump in there defensively for us and make a major impact right off the bat. Again, you're talking about that red on those tough yards. That's a kid that can make a difference for you in the red zone.
Absolutely. Coach, as always, we thank you, sir. Enjoy what little bit of summer is left. We'll see you soon and look forward to a great year 2015 for the Newberry College Wolves. Almost said Indians, but I call them. It's still hard not to call them the Indians, but I have to think
Sometimes
it through.
I think they're the Red Wolves. I don't know why I want to act the Red.
Just the Wolves.
The Wolves.
Thank you, Coach Todd Knight. Back in a moment.
All right, Coach. Had a little bit of time to look at your opponents. What do you think about the regional this weekend?
Well, we're excited about being here. You know, it's a long ways away from home, but at the same time, I think the kids are excited.
Thanks again to Todd Knight for being with us here on Sports Talk on this Thursday night. NCAA regionals begin tomorrow. Always exciting. Clemson, Arizona State, Tigers 32-27, Sun Devils 34-21. They'll play at Goodwin Field in Fullerton, California. Arizona State, led by first-year coach Tracy Smith, who's already tweeted that they're going to win the regional. They bat .297 as a team, a 4.02 ERA. They field it very well, .974 fielding percentage. Seawold is their leading hitter at .328 with 20 steals. Colby Woodmansey, he's batting .314 with 43 RBIs. Clemson, the number 3 seed. And the Tigers will be the visiting team, of course, tomorrow. They'll be in the first base dugout. And the Tigers and Sun Devils last play in the 2010 CWS. Clemson won that game 6-3, and the winner will play the win Cal State Fullerton Pepperdine game. So we're all set to go for the Tigers tomorrow. Today it was workout day at Fullerton at Goodwin Field. Tiger coach Jack Leggett got a chance to watch his team and also, of course, get a look around at the other teams as well. The Tiger Insider is there covering the Tigers for their followers. It's a free website. Sorry, Clemson Insider. Sometimes I call him the Tiger Insider. My bad. The Clemson Insider is there, and their editor, Robert McCrae Thorne, did this interview with Jack Leggett after practice today and asked him about the field, from talking about the field of teams from what he's seen.
We're excited about being here. You know, it's a long ways away from home, but at the same time, I think the kids are excited about seeing a new venue. We got some really good teams in this tournament. You know, when you talk about Arizona State and Cal State Fullerton and Pepperdine, they're all playing well right now, and they've all got strong programs. And but our kids are ready for the challenge. They're excited about being out here. Excited about trying to play the best baseball of the year right now.
How important is it to try to get that first win and stay in that winner's bracket?
Well, it's huge. You know, it's huge. And you have a guy like Crownover going on the mound, but there's nothing guaranteed. He's got to go out and earn it, just like he has every time out on Fridays. Their kid will be thinking the same thing. He's a Friday night guy for them. So it'll be a good challenge for our hitters, good challenge for Crowney, good challenge for our team. but we're excited about being out here. We're excited about what's ahead of us, and there's a lot of people who like to be in our shoes right now, and so we're going to try to represent the ACC, represent Clemson well.
You've been out there the West Coast before for a regional. How do you handle the time zone and getting the guys adjusted to that before Friday?
We had a good flight yesterday, and we let the kids out, and, on a beach town, Huntington Beach, and we had about 2 hours to themselves to have something to eat. And I think that was a really good thing. And then we got to the hotel last night, and it seemed like a long night because we lost 3 hours somewhere along the line. And so I feel rested today. I feel good. I think the players had a really crisp practice, and I think they're ready to go tomorrow.
How do you like the vibe of the team right now?
Good. I think they're excited about it. They're certainly excited about coming out here. We're not out here just to take a trip. We're out here to win. And so I think everybody's got the same frame of mind. The players are out here to prove that we have a really good program, and that I think we'll be one of those teams that will be tough to beat.
All right, Jack Leggett talking to, he goes by Robert McCray. I always thought his last name was Thorne. But anyway, thank you for the interview out there. And again, they'll give you good insight to the Tigers at that regional, Tigers and Arizona State. Now, Arizona State, number 2 seed, they've got some good wins this year. They won a series to open the year against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a tournament team. Played TCU close when TCU was ranked number 1 in the country. They lost 2 of 3, but all 3 games were very close back early in the year. They took a series from Oregon State. Oregon State's a tournament team. They took a series from Oregon back in March, another team that's in the tournament. They Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think Stanford made it this year.
No.
But they're usually a pretty good program. They took 2 of 3 from Arizona, another team in the tournament. They played really good baseball much of the year. They kind of slipped in the second half of the season. They swept Washington, and they had a 4-game winning streak. Then they lost a game at Arizona. It was like a midweek game. That must have been one of those non-league rivalry games that they played. Mm-hmm. They got beat 17-6. That started them on a slide.
Well, that's
they
a
lost
league game, though. Arizona State.
Yeah, but it was a 1-game April 28th midweek game. It might not have counted as a league game, but what I'm saying is that started a slide for them. They lost 5 out of 6 at one stretch there, and they finished the season losing 2 out of 3 to Southern Cal. So they were really good for about the first half of the season. Then they kind of stumbled down the stretch.
Maybe they had a pitching injury or something.
I don't know. But be a good test for Clemson. And with Crownover going, though, if they can field and get a timely hit or two.
Ooh.
All right, a couple of other things to pass along to you tonight. The AT&T Byron Nelson is underway. First round out in Texas, not raining there. Stephen Bowditch went out this morning and shot 62 to set the pace. Jimmy Walker is 64. James Hahn, Ryan Palmer, 65. And some others, Dustin Johnson, 3 under 67. Same thing for Jonathan Bird. Jordan Spieth plays his home state again, 1 under 69. Sam Saunders, 1 under 69. Russell Henley, even par 70. Scott Brown, a 70. And Matt Kuchar, a 71. Ricky Barnes had a 71. So they are through the first round out there. Don't forget the NCAA men's golf championships commence in the morning. Clemson will be going off in the morning wave. U.S. going out in the afternoon wave. On the tournament tomorrow on a Sports Talk, so make sure you tune in for that. And let's see, there was a couple of other things that I wanted to pass along related to some notes from the SEC meetings today. Tomorrow, of course, is the big day.
What, the checks?
When they get the checks. That's when Daddy.
Million,
that's when Daddy hands out the what do you call it? Oh,
the goods.
Well, what is it that you used to get when you were a kid?
The candy.
No. Your weekly allowance. That's when. Yeah,
well, that's more than an allowance.
Big guy hands
out
the
allowance. What do you think?
allowance.
26, 27
million.
Mm-hmm.
You mean total?
Yeah, I mean when you lump
add in the television money,
yeah,
probably going to be right around that per team. Just looking at some tweets here from Andy Staples, Sports Illustrated. He said that the head of officials, Steve Shaw, said he had a conversation with Penn Wagers a couple of years ago. They agreed that 2014 would be Wagers' last SEC season. He's the official that's retiring. Mm-hmm. He said SEC officials will have heightened awareness of air pressure in footballs. Are they thinking that we've got some Tom Brady's in our midst here in the SEC? Let's see, what else? He said Florida was the pilot program last year for the Medical Observer Program. Thinks it will be rare when observer stops a game. Well, I tell you what, the first time a coach gets the approval of his medical staff on a player and starts to send him back in the game, and that guy up in the booth blows the whistle and says, no, he can't go back in, you're going to see a free-for-all.
Well, see,
you're going to see a free-for-all. This guy's going to overrule your own medical staff.
See, that's what scares me because, as I said before, if you give a guy a whistle, he wants to blow it. He's not going to sit there and not earn his money by not pushing that button one time just to show that he's there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. All right, that will do it for tonight here on Sports Talk. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Pro. K-Mac had to leave earlier. Thank you, Larkin Belton. Great job. And thank you, Steak Man, as always. Have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow night.